the Troy Lee Design A1 versus A2 versus A3. So I own all three of these helmets. I figured I may as well make a video, give you guys some up close looks at these three different helmets side by side, which one would I recommend, give you guys just a closer look of the features, the differences between them. By the end of this video, you guys should be able to decide which helmet is right for you, A1, A2, or the Troy Lee Design A3. All right, so just looking real quick what we got them in this, let's look at the venting. So the venting on this helmet, you can see there goes the A1 right there. You can see the vents, there it goes right around back. It's got that middle vent right there, these two side vents on each side. It's got this top little vent right there, and then it's got the 6 vents right across the top, these two side ones, and then those front vents right there, and then nothing underneath the bottom of the visor right there. Compare that to the A2, and you can see they just went a lot wider on these vents. They basically took out that section right there and just made these huge vents right there. They also widened the vent on the side. You can see comparing these vents on the side compared to that vent on the side, you can see how much more ventilation the A2 has on the back right there. Let's compare the A1 in the back to the A2, and it's just got just like a little bit bigger holes right there, a little bit better ventilation. And out of these three helmets, the Troy Lee A2 definitely has the best ventilation. Now let's move over to the Troy Lee Design A3, and you can see on the A3 real quick, let's just get this A3 closer to the A1, because they kind of like went back. They opened up, gave a ton of ventilation on the A2, and then when they went to the A3, they kind of went back a little bit closer to the A2, but still you can tell just like a little bit more ventilation than the A2. So here goes the A3. Let's just look real quick. It's still got the 6 vents across the top, just a little bit more ventilation right there to the front of the helmet versus this, where you can see it's all kind of filled in right there. Let's look at the TLD A3 across the back right there, and you can see it's just got these extra vents right here. Now let's go ahead and look at a close-up look of the back of these helmets. So let's flip these bad boys around. TLD A1, A2, A3. So you can see on the coverage right there, this is the TLD A3, and they brought it down just a little bit more in the rear. It's got just a little bit, I think from the side, you can see the profile a little bit better. You can see on the TLD A2, it kind of stops right about there where the strap is, whereas the TLD A3, instead of stopping right there, it kind of continues down to give you just a little bit deeper coverage on the side right there. Let's go ahead and compare that to the TLD A1, A2, A3. There it goes right there. So the TLD A1 still has deeper coverage than the A2. I'd say they had a little bit of deeper coverage right here on the A1. They reduced it a lot on the A2 because one of the complaints they were getting about the A1 is just how hot that helmet was, how bad the breathability was on it. So they went full, airflow mode on the A2. That's what they're really going for. How we can make this helmet breathe really good and be a lot better for hot weather conditions. And then on the A3, they kind of reverted back a little bit, getting a little bit closer to the A1 without going all the way back to the same exact mold that they're using on the A1. Now let's go ahead and look at the visors. So we'll flip these things around and do a comparison of the visors on these helmets real quick. So the A1 and the A2 both have that same little twist knob you have to use on the visors, and the A2 visor doesn't come down quite as low as the A1 visor, but the A2 kind of allows you to fit your goggles underneath it just a little bit better Although really, if you're looking for a half shell helmet you can wear with goggles, it's the A3 you're gonna want, to where the visor just kind of pops up instead of having to twist it like that. And you can see how high it goes. It locks into place, and it goes even higher than where it locks into place on those 3 different settings. So you could definitely fit a set of goggles in there if that tickles your fancy. I'm not the type of guy that wears goggles with a half shell helmet, but there you go. Now let's go ahead and flip these helmets over and look at the internals. Now you will notice on the A3 helmet right here, I have the buckles snipped off. That's because I did a cross replacement. Troy Lee has a cross replacement program where you get 30% off if you just send them some pictures of the damage that you have on your helmet. You can see the damage right there, and then they make you snip off your straps in order to get that 30% discount. If you guys haven't watched the video, I'll throw a link right there. I'm talking about how I did the crash replacement and then got the TLD A1. Looking at the internals on these, they all have the MIPS helmet liner. So all 3 of these have the MIPS liner, which if you don't know, that means that the liner will rotate a little bit inside, so that if you crash, it's going to give you a lot better rotational protection. People chopping down trees over there. But let's go ahead and take a closer look at the internals of each one of these side by side. So you can see there goes the TLD A1. This is the upgraded version. The original TLD A1 did not have the MIPS liner. This has the MIPS liner, and with that MIPS liner, it still fits super comfortable. I've been really happy with how comfortable this is. You can see there's some spots where it doesn't have the liner, so that allows it just to breathe just a little bit better. Now moving on to the TLD A2. This was the first helmet that they introduced with the MIPS liner. So this is kind of their first version of the MIPS liner. And you can see those two compared to each other. This has just maybe a little bit more padding around the sides, but actually this A1 helmet with MIPS is more comfortable than the A2. The A2, I can feel that plastic a lot more on the MIPS liner. Now let's go ahead and move over to the A3, which is the never take it off motto helmet. And you can see on this one just like way more padding all the way. When you compare that A2 to the A1, see all that padding kind of missing right there. This helmet is so comfortable, and you would think by looking at it that, okay, this helmet's probably the hottest, but actually I've found that this A3 helmet breathes better than this A1 with MIPS. So if you're looking at overall breathability, like maybe you live in somewhere where it's a really hot climate, A2 has the best breathability. That's going to keep your head the coolest. And then the A3 breathes the next best, so that one still breathes really good for how comfortable it is. And then the A1 with MIPS, definitely you can feel your head getting a lot hotter with that helmet than either one of these. Now let's talk about comfort real quick. When it comes to comfort, there's no doubt that the TLD A3 is the most comfortable helmet, followed by the A1 with MIPS, and then the A2 is just not quite as comfortable. Like I said, you can just kind of feel that plastic and some of those pieces kind of pressing against your helmet. I do have a bald head, so I can kind of feel everything. So maybe if you're a guy with a full head of hair, got that luscious head of hair, you're not going to be worried about that. Now let's go ahead and talk about the last little tidbit, is just the retention strap and the buckle. So the buckle, the Troy Lee A3, this is when they first introduced the Fidlock buckle. And if you guys don't know about this Fidlock buckle, it's one of those things that you don't have to have with this basically magnetic buckle right here. But once you get used to that, it is just so convenient and you really fall in love with that. The TLD A2 and the TLD A1 basically have the same exact buckle right there. Now let's talk about the retention strap. So let's compare these 3 retention straps real quick. So the retention strap between the TLD A1 with MIPS, the TLD A2, and the TLD A3 You can see like the TLD A1 and the TLD A2 have pretty similar retention straps on them. The clicks right here, you can see on the amount of clicks that they have, about the same between the TLD A2 and the TLD A1. When you go to the TLD A3, they kind of increase the number of clicks that you can get on this thing, so it just gives you those extra little in-between settings to get that helmet set up just right for you and feeling super comfortable. If you guys haven't seen any of my other videos, go ahead and click on that next video right there where I did a direct comparison, ride and review TLD A2 between the TLD A3. I also did my initial impressions video on the TLD A1, and coming soon, you guys will see ride and review TLD A1 versus A2 versus A3.